Hi, and welcome to O2 Tara Talks, conversations about one thing you can do right now to stay healthy in your body and mind. And first, let's do a little disclaimer. Today's talk is for informational purposes only. Consult your practitioner for guidance specific to your situation. And with that, let's go ahead and introduce Valda Ford, who we're speaking with today. Valda, can you tell us in one sentence how you help people?
I help people to improve their abilities to get to or get better at intimacy.
That's a nice way of helping people because I think in our electronic world and in old things, we probably struggle with that a lot more than we're even really thinking about. So I love that. Can you tell us then, um, given where we are today, what is one thing we can do right now?
I think that the thing that we can do right now is touch each other. We forget that touching is so important because imagine you start off in a dating mode where you don't even touch each other at first, or the first touch is so scintillating, it's memorable. And then as you move more and more into a relationship, you think that simple touch isn't important. Everyone's trying to get to third base or the home run. They're not worrying about just how to prepare at the plate.
It's a great way to put it. You're right, but there is that shift in changing, in I guess your intention, if you will, and
Mhm.
your goal, and so you forget that basic sort of thing. So, can you tell me? Can we talk a little bit about why then that touch would be so important to our health?
Touch is one of those things that we forget over the course of time how important it has been all along. Imagine a newborn, the first thing they're doing is reaching out to be touched. Whether
Mm.
they are just trying to get back to the comfort that they had in the womb, they're thinking, what's happening? It's cold and bright out here.
Yeah.
I'm not touching anything. So they're reaching out to be touched. Then they find how to feed through touch. As we are getting older, kids, first thing you see them doing is reaching up their arms so that they can be picked up.
Yeah.
And then, even though I work with people all across the age spectrum, if I'm in a long term care facility with someone who is lonely, the first thing they do is reach out to touch. These are simple touches, but it is our connection to people and to the world.
I love that. You're reminding me of one time when my daughter was younger, maybe three or so. We went to a party, a lot of people we didn't know, and there was some older guy that gave her some kind of candy cane or whatever it was. And she gave him a little hug because she's a very, affectionate little kid, gave him a little hug. And I noticed this guy looked like he was holding on for dear life to that hug.
Mhm.
And afterwards I thought, wow, maybe he, lives alone, doesn't have a significant other in his life or no grandkids or something,
Right.
but he looked like he was starved for it. And
Mhm.
what you're saying now really makes me think about that there would be a lot of people, even older people, that may not have somebody who is regularly just giving them a hug or
Mhm.
a good rub on the shoulders or whatever. So it really is critical. So, could you tell me if you're saying the one thing we could do is to touch each other? What might be some roadblocks that would prevent us from being able to do that comfortably?
Well, right now, unfortunately, in this environment, everyone is afraid to touch.
Mm.
Everyone is afraid to breathe around someone else.
This is true.
So, exactly, if you're touching people, are you taking a chance on getting something? I remember during the early stages of the HIV epidemic, when everyone was afraid that if you touched someone with HIV, that you were going to die, an AIDS patient was automatically going to transmit that. We found out that it really, really is impossible to do just casual transmission of HIV. And people I talk to who have it say the thing they miss most is touch. That
Mm.
even when people are not truly afraid of them, they hesitate, they move away, they move back when they come forward. And it's not as if they're looking for a kiss, a French
Right.
kiss. but they're just looking for someone to touch them.
Mhm.
So in this day, especially when we're taught to be afraid once again of the basics, you might touch virtually. What we're doing now using this medium, I can talk to you, I can say I miss you, I can do a literal hug or send an emoji with a hug, or
Right.
you use words that say I'm touching you. Imagine my hand on your arm, imagining my arm around your shoulder. We have to get into verbal touch more than the physical touch.
I love that. And I actually did that with my daughter one time, now that you're mentioning it. I didn't really even think of it that way. But I was traveling and she called me and she was upset. And I said, okay, just picture that I'm, rubbing my hand on your back like I normally do. And so, yeah, and you're right. We can absolutely do that now
Hmm.
with people that we can't connect with in person because of the time that we're living in
Yes,
right now. But you're right,
yes,
that can really help to foster that connection, even if you can't be there in person. So, so I guess the next thing I would normally talk about is how we can overcome these roadblocks. But I guess I would ask you this too, just to because I love your topic so much. Let's say if you do have people that, like a family that is, in their house now as they are because we're all home now with the coronavirus pandemic going around. How could you maybe lead a family or get the ball rolling if you had a family that wasn't really adjusting that well, say, to
right,
all being together 24/7 all of a sudden?
yes.
What kind of shift could you make to bring that openness to touch around?
It would be different depending on how the family dynamics are. Let's just say you have a couple, two individuals who have been married for 20 years, perhaps they've forgotten how important touch is. Then I would have them go through a series of intimacy exercises, and they might include things like sit beside each other. Remember that love seat that
Mm.
whole love seat concept
Mm.
where you
Right.
are touching each other, not where now we have the king size beds and someone's over there and someone's over there and there's a space in the middle,
Right.
but sit beside each other with the intention of simply sitting beside each other. This exercise doesn't have to lead to anything except being appreciative of human touch. And that's just clothing touching clothing. The next level would be to hold each other's hands. The next step would be to stare into each other's eyes, to really do that soul gaze for 60 to
Mm.
90 seconds without saying anything. And here's something I find is a good thing for people who have not remembered how to be close to one another is to share an activity like cooking.
Mm.
Cooking is collaborative. One can be reading the recipe, one can be getting the ingredients, one can be cutting and chopping, the other can be sauteing, but they have to come together to make the total meal. And
Right.
I suggest to couples that I work with that they cook together at least twice a week. It doesn't have to be a big production number, just the fact that they have to go through these steps, be intentional about it, be in the same room, and have a conversation about how to get the work done.
Mm. Oh, I really love that. The whole process that you described, just first of all, sitting next to each other, just to have the contact together is
Mhm.
great because that's very, I think probably it would be acceptable or safe to a lot of people, right? Because like
Yeah,
you said, it's just for that simple goal of sitting next to each other. And then,
yes,
as you mentioned, the cooking, that's ideal because
it's good.
the smells are there and
Mhm.
an activity that and then it ends in this great enjoyment of food. So I
Right.
think that's a wonderful idea.
Plus, we tie so many of our positive memories to sharing food and being celebrated with food and people bringing us food if we feel bad. So
Right.
we can do that. We can do it in a healthy fashion, or we could just get into some real Southern stuff like I'm doing and put some biscuits and gravy in the middle of it. We'll be all right.
Get that comfort food, all right? I think we need
Exactly.
more comfort. So I think that's a great idea. Wow,
Yeah.
well, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I really think people can look at what you've talked about as really one thing that they can do right now to stay healthy in their mind and body. So thank you so much, Valda. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
It was my pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you.